Learn a little bit of something. We're going to learn about Santa Claus theory. So I find this very interesting.
Nobody likes floppy things. We the People holsters have created a hard, sturdy belt to keep it.
Oh my god, yeah, to keep your gun in. You're fucking such a weak person. You have to keep your gun in your fucking belt. Yes, we're so fucking weak. Why don't you have like 9 attachments? You have 9 different guns to show how small your dick feels at that particular moment in time. Motherfuck.
Santa Claus is about to drop a bomb on Biden. And basically, here's what it lays out. The stock market's down like 500 points or something like that today. And in part, this is a reaction. Now, I realize they're saying, oh, gee, there's a company that's crashed in China. Well, that would take down the Chinese stock market. But what's happening here is that last Friday, Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary, came out and said...
This is a little old, but still very relevant. I like this theory. It's a very interesting political idea, social idea, economical. It's kind of all these things combined, but I'll stop talking now.
You know, we ran out of money. The federal government ran out of money at the end of July. It is now September. And if y'all don't raise the debt ceiling pretty soon, we're going to have to start cutting back on what we spend money on. And if we reach the point where we can't even service our debt, we're talking a worldwide depression. Yellen came out and said essentially that, and there's a link to the Financial Times story that details it. Or maybe it's the Washington Post story in my op-ed today. And sure enough, on Sunday, yesterday, Mitch McConnell came out and said, yep, 0 votes. Excuse me, that was on Saturday. Said 0 votes, Republican votes for the debt ceiling. So on Sunday, yesterday, Yellen came out again, and this time in the Wall Street Journal, saying, quote, we would emerge from this crisis a permanently weaker nation. If, you know, end quote, if the Republicans do this strategy of saying, no, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling, we're going to crash the economy. This is an actual strategy. They have been running this since 1981. And I just want to lay it out for you. In summary, here's how the strategy works. First, this is called the Two Santa Claus theory, and it was devised by Jude Wanniski. It was first published in the Wall Street Journal in 1974 as basically a letter to the Republican Party. Here's how you can never again lose an election. First, the Two Santa Claus theory dictates when Republicans control the White House, they must spend money like a drunken Santa and cut taxes to run up the U.S. debt as far and as fast as possible. This produces 3 results for Republicans when they're in the White House. First, it stimulates the economy like crazy. Reagan tripled the national debt. He took it from $800 billion to $2.5 trillion and spent all that, just spending mind-boggling amounts of money at the same time he was cutting taxes.
Facts.
And that stimulus actually improved the economy. And so people look back and go, hey, the economy was pretty good during Reagan. Yeah, give me a $2 trillion credit card. I'll show you what it looks like to live large. Anyhow, that's the first effect. The second is that it raises the debt, which is what the Republicans actually want. And then the third is that you add to that massive tax cuts, and the Republicans are viewed as Santa Claus. Hey, they're giving me tax money back.
Yep. They can have their cake and eat it too.
The second part of the strategy, that's the first part of the Two Santa Claus theory strategy. The second part is that when a Democrat is in the White House, you completely reverse the script. Republicans need to scream bloody murder about the national debt as loudly and as frantically as they possibly can. Our children are going to have to pay for it. We have to cut spending to solve this crisis. Shut down the government, crash the stock market, damage U.S. credibility around the world if that's what's necessary to stop Democrats from spending any more money.
Yep.
And thus...
Coming from an economist. He's an economist. This is his field of study. Not even coming from me. I'm not trying to speak for him. This is him saying it. I'm just saying that it makes complete logical sense, and this is a guy whose specialty is exactly this. So you can deny it all you want if you're some naysayer out there, but this is at least a good theory based upon practice, or based upon what we've seen.
In fact, if you can get the Democrats to even start cutting back on their own social programs that support average working people, they become they cease to become Santa Claus, but they become the guys who shot Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough,
they become the Grinch, if you will.
They're doing it again. They're following their Two Santa Claus theory. Well, where did this come from? This came from this guy, as I said, Jude Wanniski, back in 1974. In the Wall Street Journal, he first proposed his Two Santa Claus strategy. This was back when Nixon, had resigned in disgrace, and the Republican Party was in such such terrible shape that they were literally writing books about. Kevin Phillips wrote a book, basically wondering whether the Republican Party would even survive.
Yep.
But Winitsky came out and said, no, the reason Republicans are losing elections is not because Nixon was corrupt. That is past. The reason Republicans are losing elections is because they oppose Social Security, they oppose Medicare, they oppose unemployment insurance, they oppose food stamps, they oppose welfare, and they're not viewed as Santa Claus, they're viewed as Scrooge. And we need to change that. And then, of course, the question was, okay, how do we do that? And he said, you become the Santa Claus of tax.
Yeah, you give them tax breaks, and you stop the other side from spending anything at all. So you look like the only time that money is given to anybody, it's only given by Republicans, even though the other side's trying to give you way more than they'll ever give you. But they stop them from doing so and creating the person who shot Santa, as he says in his theory, the person who, not even his theory, the guy he's talking about's theory. You are the one who stopped all the good stuff from happening, even though you're trying to have good things happen, but they're stopping it every step of the way. Until one of them get back into presidency, then they just spend.
And thus was the strategy born, right? And it worked really well. They did, first of all, Reagan came into office, and Reagan and Bush together ran up more debt in the United States than every administration from George Washington to Jimmy Carter combined, all the world.
Mind-blowing, right? It's actually mind-blowing hearing it. It's literally mind-blowing.
Wars, all the debt, all the spending, the Revolutionary War, the Civil, everything, all added all together, and Reagan ran up more debt than that in one term. Well, you add Bush, 12 years actually. So, first of all, now you got this massive debt. Now Bill Clinton comes into the White House. What do the Republicans do with it? Well, Jude Winitsky, by the way, had invented this phrase, supply-side economics, as a justification for Reagan's drunken Santa spending. And Art Laffer came up with his famous curve that said that when taxes go down, revenue to the government goes up. And so those two things were used as the kind of Potemkin village, the mask over the face, the justification for this.
Yep, the lie.
So then Bill Clinton comes into office, and what do the Republicans do? They scream absolutely freaking bloody murder. Clinton had been elected on the New Covenant speech, his stump speech, which promised to expand Social Security, expand Medicare, create a single-payer healthcare system in the United States, expand the social safety net, all kinds of really great stuff that Clinton campaigned on. And then as he was coming into office, Winitsky insider Alan Greenspan and his good buddy, Goldman Sachs co-chairman Robert Rubin, sat him down and said, Bush and Reagan left you such massive budget deficits that you're not going to be able to do your new covenant. You're not going to be able to spend more money. In fact, you're going to have to start cutting programs. And Clinton believed them.
Yeah.
He took it to heart.
Clinton believed them because it was the first time they implemented a strategy, I think, as it were structured from, the 80s or whatever. This would be they applied it before, but this is the real application, if you will. Fuck the tests. This is the real deal. This is not a test.
The anti-Santa Claus. He said, the era of big government is over. It's the end of welfare as we know it. And the result was exactly what Jude Winitsky predicted. Democrats started losing elections all over the country.
Yep.
As a result of Clinton going, shooting Santa Claus in the face.
Yeah.
Thus, in 1999, looking at the wreckage around Bill Clinton, this last year of his presidency, next to the last year, Winitsky wrote this gloating memo that said, quote, "We of course should be indebted to Art Laffer for all time for his curve, but as the primary political theoretician of the supply side camp, I began arguing for the two Santa Claus theory in 1974.
Yep.
If the Democrats...
It finally got applied, and he's been arguing for it that long. He said, I was right the whole time. I told you guys. Just spend a lot and don't let them ever spend, and then cut taxes. Or, cut taxes and make it look like even when you cut taxes mostly for the rich, or even all the time for the rich, it makes it look like you're just giving them back so much.
play Santa Claus
But in practice, you're giving them back little to nothing.
by promoting more spending. The Republicans can never beat them by promoting less spending. They have to promise tax cuts.
Yeah, tax
I'm
cuts.
the president of the Cato
Which go to the rich.
Institute, this Koch-funded think tank.
And we get less for
and
them.
Crane, he noted in a memo that year, quote,
I mean, if you think about it that way, the less taxes paid, the less things get done. At least if you tax the rich more, things will still get paid for. In that theory, no one's really nothing's getting fucking done. It's just a shit theory. I hate it. Like it's a good theory. It works, but I hate the actuality of it. Ugh, it's so bad. The Democrats need to really pivot and do something with their message or ideology or something. They need to stop this two Santa Claus theory that's already in motion. It's like a snowball. It's already down the hill. It's just snowballing more. They got to somehow put a barrier up to stop that from becoming too big of a snowball. But we'll see.
When Jack Kemp, Newt Gingrich, Vin Weber, Connie Mack, and the rest discovered June Whiskey and Art Laffer, they thought they'd died and gone to heaven. In supply-side economics, they found a philosophy that gave them a free pass out of the debate over the proper role of government. That's why you rarely, if ever, heard Kemp or Gingrich call for spending cuts, much less the elimination of programs and departments.
Yeah, because all the money was going to their wealthy friends, their wealthy donors, the rich people that they, were getting direct benefit from while saying fuck the people, but all while making the average person think that they're the only ones helping them out. It's brilliant, but disgustingly so.
And that was the year, 1999, that was the year that two Santa Clauses went mainstream, when the media bought it hook, line, and sinker. Mm-hmm. And, the Republicans got what they wanted from Winski's work. They held power for 40 years. And they did it to Clinton. Then they did it to Obama.
Yep.
Exact same thing. Oh, my God, tax cuts.
And they're still doing it to Biden.
Oh, my God, deficits. We can't, you can't spend your way out of it. And what did Obama do? He believed them too. He said, okay, let's cut Social Security. Let's do the chain CPI. His base stopped him. But he was willing to, Obama was willing to cut Social Security because all of the pressure, because, oh my God, the debt, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, when Obama was president,
this fake political pressure that if it was a Republican president, they wouldn't have even thought to stop doing it. They would spend and spend and spend, just like the two Santa Claus theory dictated.
The Republicans, like they're threatening to do right now, like Mitch McConnell threatened to do over the weekend.
Yep.
They refused to raise the debt ceiling, and the U.S. shut down the government. In fact, if you're watching the series on, I forget where it's called.
They passed
I'm watching it on Amazon Prime.
At this point in history, they passed a little short stopgap thing, but it's just still trying to apply that pressure to Biden to not spend anything. But Biden's a little different because he's trying to streamline all the spending via the 50+1 idea that they could just pretty much streamline anything without having to go through the normal chambers, but they can only do that so many times. Reconciliation, that's the term for it. I just had to think about it for a while. But so it's a little different because Biden's trying to pass things doing that, but it's only so effective.
Coming from someplace else about Monica Lewinsky, the whole impeachment thing. I think it's Showtime. I'm not real sure, but anyway, Louise and I have been watching. It's an amazing movie, but we're up to part 2 right now. But that was the year. Sure enough, it was during the shutdown that Monica and Bill got kind of thrown in together.
That is kind of funny.
But anyhow, that happened again to that wasn't 2011. That was 1999. Or whichever year it was. But it happened again to President Obama. Now he didn't have Monica, but
no, but he still was stalled.
It's like
in every regard.
And when Bush was in office before. Cheney came out right out and said it, as they were spending money and cutting taxes. He said, Reagan.
Yeah. It's just crazy.